From the Chandogya Upanishad. Wherefrom do all these worlds come? They come from space. All beings arise from space, and into space they return. Space is indeed their beginning, and space is their final end. Prajapati, the creator of all, rested in life-giving meditation over the worlds of his creation, and from them came the 3 Vedas. He rested in meditation, and from those came the 3 sounds, Bhur, Bhuvas, Sva, earth, air and sky. He rested in meditation, and from the 3 sounds came the sound Om. Even as all leaves come from a stem, all words came from the sound Om. Om is the whole universe. Om is in truth the whole universe. Great is the Gayatri, the most sacred verse of the Vedas. But how much greater is the infinity of Brahman? A quarter of his being is this whole vast universe. The other 3/4 are his heaven of immortality. There is a light that shines beyond all things on earth, beyond us, beyond the heavens, beyond the highest, beyond the very highest heavens. This is the light that shines in our heart. All this universe is in truth Brahman. He is the beginning and end and life of all. As such, in silence, give unto him adoration. Man in truth is made of faith. As his faith is in this life, so he becomes in the beyond. With faith and vision there is a spirit that is mind and life, light and truth and vast spaces. He contains all works and desires, and all perfumes and all tastes. He enfolds the whole universe, and in silence is loving to all. This is the spirit that is in my heart, smaller than a grain of rice, or a grain of barley, or a grain of mustard seed, or a grain of canary seed, or the kernel of a grain of canary seed. This is the spirit that is in my heart, greater than the earth, greater than the sky, greater than heaven itself, greater than all these worlds. He contains all works and desires, and all perfumes and all tastes. He enfolds the whole universe, and in silence is loving to all. This is the spirit that is in my heart. This is Brahman. To him I shall come when I go beyond this life, and to him will come he who has faith and doubts not. Thus said Sandilya. I go to the imperishable treasure, by his grace, by his grace, by his grace. I go to the spirit of life, by his grace, by his grace, by his grace. I go to the spirit of the earth, by his grace, by his grace, by his grace. I go to the spirit of the air, by his grace, by his grace, by his grace. I go to the spirit of the heavens, by his grace, by his grace, by his grace. A man is a living sacrifice. The first 24 years of his life are the morning offering of the Soma wine, because the holy Gayatri has 24 sounds, and the chanting of the Gayatri is heard in the morning offering. The Vasus, the gods of the earth, rule this offering. If a man should be ill during that time, he should pray, "With the help of the Vasus, the powers of my life, may my morning offering last until my midday offering, and may not my sacrifice perish whilst the Vasus are the powers of my life." The next 44 years of his life are the midday offering of the Soma wine, because the holy Trishtuba has 44 sounds, and the chanting of the Trishtuba is heard with the midday offering. The Rudras, the gods of the air, rule this offering. If a man should be ill during that time, he should pray, "With the help of the Rudras, the powers of my life, may my midday offering last until my evening offering, and may not my sacrifice perish whilst the Rudras are the powers of my life." The next 48 years of his life are the evening offering, because the holy Jagati has 48 sounds, and the chanting of the Jagati is heard with the evening offering. The Adityas, the gods of light, rule this offering. If a man should be ill during that time, he should pray, "With the help of the Adityas, the powers of my life, let my evening offering last until the end of a long life, and may not my sacrifice perish whilst the Adityas are the powers of my life." Mahidasa Aitareva knew this when he used to say, "Why should I suffer an illness when I am not going to die?" And he lived 116 years. We should consider that in the inner world Brahman is consciousness, and we should consider that in the outer world Brahman is space. These are the two meditations. Once Satyakama went to his mother and said, "Mother, I wish to enter upon the life of a religious student. Of what family am I?" To him she answered, "I do not know, my child, of what family thou art. In my youth I was poor, and served as a maid many masters, and then I had thee. I therefore do not know of what family thou art. My name is Jabala, and thy name is Satyakama. Thou mayst call thyself Satyakama Jabala." The boy went to the master, Haridrumata Gautama, and said, "I want to become a student of sacred wisdom. May I come to you, master?" To him the master asked, "What family art thou, my son?" "I do not know of what family I am," answered Satyakama. "I asked my mother, and she said, 'I do not know, my child, of what family thou art. In my youth I was poor, and served as a maid many masters, and then I had thee. I therefore do not know of what family thou art. My name is Jabala, and thy name is Satyakama. I am therefore Satyakama Jabala, master." To him Master Gautama said, "Thou art a Brahman, since thou hast not gone away from truth. Come, my son, I will take thee as a student." Om. There lived once a boy, Svetaketu Aruneya by name. One day his father spoke to him in this way, "Svetaketu, go and become a student of sacred wisdom. There is no one in our family who has not studied the holy Vedas, and who might only be given the name of Brahman by courtesy." The boy left at the age of 12, and having learnt the Vedas, he returned home at the age of 24, very proud of his learning, and having a great opinion of himself. His father, observing this, said to him, "Svetaketu, my boy, you seem to have a great opinion of yourself. You think you are learned, and you are very proud. Have you asked for that knowledge whereby what is not heard is heard, what is not thought is thought, and what is not known is known?" "What is that knowledge, father?" asked Svetaketu. "Just as by knowing a lump of clay, my son, all that is clay can be known, since any differences are only words, and the reality is clay. Just as by knowing a piece of gold that all is gold can be known, since any differences are only words, and the reality is only gold. And just as by knowing a piece of iron, all that is iron is known, since any differences are only words, and the reality is only iron." Svetaketu said, "Certainly my honoured masters knew not this themselves. If they had known, why would they not have told me? Explain this to me, father." "So be it, my child." "Bring me a fruit from this banyan tree." "Here it is, father." "Break it." "It is broken, sir." "What do you see in it?" "Very small seeds, sir." "Break one of them, my son." "It is broken, sir." "What do you see in it?" "Nothing at all, sir." Then his father spoke to him. My son, from the very essence in the seed which you cannot see, comes in truth this vast banyan tree. Believe me, my son, an invisible and subtle essence is the spirit of the whole universe. That is reality. That is Atman. Thou art that. Explain more to me, father, says Svetaketu. So be it, my son. Place this salt in water and come to me tomorrow morning. Svetaketu did as he was commanded, and in the morning his father said to him, Bring me the salt you put into the water last night. Svetaketu looked into the water, but he could not find it, for it had dissolved. His father then said, Taste the water from this side. How is it? It is salt. Taste it from the middle. How is it? It is salt. Taste it from that side. How is it? It is salt. Look for the salt again, and come again to me. The son did so, saying, I cannot see the salt, I only see water. His father then said, In the same way, O my son, you cannot see the spirit, but in truth he is here. An indivisible and subtle essence is the spirit of the whole universe. That is reality. That is truth. Thou art that. Explain more to me, father. So be it, my son. Even as a man, O my son, who had been led blindfolded from his land of the Gandharas, and then left in a desert place, might wander to the east and north and south, he had been taken blindfolded, and left in an unknown place. But if a good man took off his bandage and told him, In that direction is the land of the Gandharas, go in that direction, then if he were a wise man he would go asking from village to village, until he would have reached this land of the Gandharas. So it happens in this world to a man who has a master to direct him to the land of the spirit. Such a man can say, I shall wander in this world until I attain liberation, but then I shall go and reach my home. This invisible and subtle essence is the spirit of the whole universe. That is reality. That is truth. Thou art that. Is there anything higher than thought? Meditation is in truth higher than thought. The earth seems to rest in silent meditation, and the waters and the mountains and the sky and the heavens seem all to be in meditation. Whenever a man attains greatness on this earth, he has his reward according to his meditation. When a man speaks words of truth, he speaks words of greatness. Know the nature of truth. When a man knows, he can speak truth. He who does not know cannot speak truth. Know the nature of knowledge. When a man thinks, then he can know. He who does not think does not know. Know the nature of thought. When a man has faith, then he thinks. He who has not faith does not think. Know the nature of faith. When there is progress, one sees and has faith. Where there is no progress, there is no faith. Know the nature of progress. Where there is creation, there is progress. Where there is no creation, there is no progress. Know the nature of creation. Where there is joy, there is creation. Where there is no joy, there is no creation. Know the nature of joy. Where there is the infinite, there is joy. There is no joy in the finite. Only in the infinite there is joy. Know the nature of the infinite. Where nothing else is seen or heard or known, there is the infinite. Where something else is seen or heard or known, there is the finite. The infinite is immortal, but the finite is mortal. Where does the infinite rest? On his own greatness, or not even on his own greatness. In this world they call the greatness of possession of cattle and horses, elephants and gold, servants and wives, lands and houses, but I do not call this greatness, for here one thing depends upon another. But the infinite is above and below, north and south, and east and west. The infinite is the whole universe. I am above and below, north and south, and east and west. I am the whole universe. Atman is above and below, north and south, and east and west. Atman is the whole universe. He who sees knows, and understands this. Who finds in Atman the spirit, his love and his pleasure, and his union and his joy, becomes a master of himself. His freedom then is infinite. But those who see not this become the servants of other masters, and in the worlds that pass away attain not their liberation. Om. In the centre of the castle of Brahman, our own body, there is a small shrine in the form of a lotus flower, and within can be found a small space. We should find who dwells there, and we should want to know him. And if anyone asks, who is he who dwells in a small shrine in the form of a lotus flower in the centre of the castle of Brahman? Whom should we want to find and to know? We can answer, the little space within the heart is as great as this vast universe. The heavens and the earth are there, and the sun and the moon and the stars. Fire and lightning and winds are there, and all that now is, and all that is not. For the whole universe is in him, and he dwells within our heart. And if they should say, if all things are in the castle of Brahman, all be desires, what remains when old age overcomes the castle, or when the life of the body is gone? We can answer, the spirit who is in the body does not grow old and does not die, and no one can ever kill the spirit who is everlasting. This is the real castle of Brahman, wherein dwells all the love of the universe. It is Atman, pure spirit, beyond sorrow, old age and death, beyond evil and hunger and thirst. It is Atman whose love is truth, whose thoughts are truth. Even as here on earth the attendants of a king obey their king, and are with him wherever he is, and go with him wherever he goes, so all love which is truth, and all thoughts of truth, obey the Atman, the spirit. And even as here on earth all work done in time ends in time, so in the world to come even the good works of the past pass away. Therefore those who leave this world, and have not found their soul, and that love which is truth, find not their freedom in other worlds. But those who leave this world and have found their soul, and that love which is truth, for them there is the liberty of the spirit, in this world and in the world to come. There is a bridge between time and eternity, and this bridge is Atman, the spirit of man. Neither day nor night cross that bridge, nor old age, nor death, nor sorrow. Evil or sin cannot cross that bridge, because the world of the spirit is pure. This is why, when this bridge has been crossed, the eyes of the blind can see, the wounds of the wounded are healed, and the sick man becomes whole from his sickness. To one who goes over that bridge, the night becomes like unto day, because in the worlds of the spirit there is a light which is everlasting. There is a spirit which is pure, and which is beyond old age and death, and beyond hunger and thirst and sorrow. This is Atman, the spirit in man. All the desires of this spirit are truth. It is this spirit that we must find and know. Man must find his own soul. He who has found and knows his soul has found all the worlds, has achieved all his desires. Thus spoke Prajapati. The gods and the devils heard these words, and they said, Come, let us go and find the Atman. Let us find the soul, so that we may obtain all our desires. Then Indra amongst the gods, and Virokahana amongst the devils, went without telling each other to see Prajapati, carrying fuel in their hands as a sign that they wanted to be his pupils. And so for 32 years they both lived with Prajapati the life of religious students. At the end of that time, Prajapati asked them, "Why have you been living the life of religious students?" Indra and Virokahana answered, "People say that you know the Atman, a spirit which is pure and which is beyond old age and death, and beyond hunger and thirst and sorrow. A spirit whose desires are truth, and whose thoughts are truth. And that you say that this spirit must be found and known, because when he is found, all the worlds are found, and all desires are obtained. This is why we have been living here as your pupils." Prajapati said to them, "What you see when you look into another person's eyes, that is the Atman, immortal, beyond fear. That is Brahman." "And who is he whom we see when we look in water or in a mirror?" they asked. "The same is seen in all," he answered. And then he said to them, "Go and look at yourselves in a bowl of water, and ask me anything you want to know about the Atman, your own self." The two went and looked in a bowl of water. "What do you see?" asked Prajapati. "We see ourselves clearly from our hair down to our nails," they said. "Adorn yourselves and dress in clothes of beauty," said Prajapati, "and look at yourselves again in a bowl of water." They did so and looked again in the bowl of water. "What do you see?" asked Prajapati. "We see ourselves as we are," they answered, "adorned and dressed in clothes of beauty." "Is the immortal beyond all fear. This is Brahman," said Prajapati. Then they left with peace in their hearts. Prajapati looked at them and said, "They have seen, but they have not understood. They have not found the Atman, their soul. Anyone who holds their belief, be he god or devil, shall perish." Then Virokahana went to the devils full of self-satisfaction and gave them this teaching. "We ourselves are our own bodies, and those must be made happy on earth. It is our bodies that should be in glory, and it is for them that we should have servants. He who makes his body happy, who for his body has servants, he is well in this world and also in the world to come. That is why when here on earth a man will not give any gifts. When a man has no faith and will not sacrifice, people say, 'This man is a devil,' for this is in truth their devilish doctrine. They dress their dead bodies with fine garments and glorify them with perfumes and ornaments, thinking that thereby they will conquer the other world." But before Indra had returned to the gods, he saw the danger of this teaching, and he thought, "If our self, our Atman, is the body, and is dressed in clothes of beauty when the body is, and is covered with ornaments when the body is, then when the body is blind, the self is blind, and when the body is lame, the self is lame, and when the body dies, our self dies. I cannot find any joy in this doctrine." He therefore went back to Prajapati with fuel in hand as a sign that he wanted to be his pupil. "Why have you returned, great Maghavan?" asked Prajapati. "You went away with Virokahana with peace in your heart." Indra replied, "Even as the Atman, the self, our soul, is dressed in clothes of beauty when the body is, and is covered with ornament when the body is, when the body is blind, the self is blind, and when the body is lame, the self is lame, and when the body dies, the self dies. I cannot find any joy in this doctrine." "It is even so, Maghavan," said Prajapati. "I will teach you a higher doctrine. Live with me for another 32 years. Indra was with Prajapati for another 32 years, and then Prajapati said, "The spirit that wanders in joy in the land of dreams, that is the Atman. That is the immortal beyond fear. That is Brahman." Then Indra left with peace in his heart. But before he had returned to the gods, he saw the danger of this teaching, and he thought, "Even if in dreams when the body is blind, the self is not blind, or when the body is lame and the self is not lame, and does not indeed suffer the limitations of the body, so that when the body is killed, the self is not killed, yet in dreams the self may seem to be killed and to suffer, and to feel much pain and weep, I cannot find any joy in this doctrine. He therefore went with fuel in hand back to Prajapati, who said to him, "You left Maghavan with peace in your heart. Why have you returned?" Indra replied, "Even if in dreams when the body is blind, the Atman is not blind, or when the body is lame, the Atman is not lame, and indeed does not suffer the limitations of the body, so that when the body is killed, the self is not killed, yet in dreams the self may seem to be killed and suffer, and to feel much pain and weep, I cannot find any joy in this doctrine." "What you say is true, Maghavan," said Prajapati. "I will teach you a higher doctrine. Live with me for another 32 years. Indra was with Prajapati another 32 years, and then Prajapati said, "The spirit who is sleeping without dreams in the silent quietness of deep sleep, that is the Atman. That is the immortal beyond fear. That is Brahman." Then Indra left with peace in his heart, but before he had reached the gods he saw the danger of this teaching, and he thought, "If a man is in deep sleep without dreams, he cannot even say 'I am,' and he cannot know anything. He in truth falls into nothingness. I cannot find any joy in this doctrine." And he went again to Prajapati with fuel in hand. "Why have you returned, Maghavan? You left with peace in your heart?" asked Prajapati. Indra replied, "If a man is in deep sleep without dreams, he cannot even say 'I am,' and he cannot know anything. He in truth falls into nothingness. I cannot find any joy in this doctrine." "What you say is true, Maghavan," said Prajapati. "I will teach you a higher doctrine, the highest that can be taught. Live with me now for 5 years. And Indra lived with Prajapati for 5 years. He lived with Prajapati a total of years 101. This is why people say, "Great Indra lived with Prajapati the life of chastity, of a Brahmaraya, spiritual student, for 131 years. Prajapati then spoke to Indra. "It is true that the body is mortal, that it is under the power of death, but it is also the dwelling of Atman, the spirit of immortal life. The body, the house of the spirit, is under the power of pleasure and pain, and if a man is ruled by his body, then this man can never be free. But when a man is in the joy of the spirit, in the spirit which is ever free, then this man is free from all bondage, the bondage of pleasure and pain. The wind has not a body, nor lightning, nor thunder, nor clouds. But when those rise into the higher spheres, then they find their body of light. In the same way, when the soul is in silent quietness, it arises and leaves the body, and reaching the Spirit Supreme, finds there its body of light. It is the land of infinite liberty, where, beyond its mortal body, the spirit of man is free. There can he laugh and sing of his glory with ethereal women and friends. He enjoys ethereal chariots, and forgets the cart of his body on earth. For as a beast is attached to a cart, so on earth the soul is attached to a body. Know that when the eye looks into space, it is the spirit of man that sees. The eye is the only organ of sight. When one says, "I feel this perfume," it is the spirit that feels. He uses the organ of smell. When one says, "I am speaking," it is the spirit that speaks. The voice is the organ of speech. When one says, "I am hearing," it is the spirit that hears. The ear is the organ of hearing. And when one says, "I think," it is the spirit that thinks. The mind is the organ of thought. It is because of the light of the spirit that the human mind can see and can think and enjoy this world. All the gods in the heaven of Brahman adore in contemplation their infinite Spirit Supreme. This is why they have all joy, and all the worlds and all desires. And the man who on this earth finds and knows Atman, his own self, has all his holy desires, and all the worlds, and all joy. Thus spoke Prajapati. Thus in truth spoke Prajapati.